You've built a life, a career, you've paid your taxes for years. But what happens when the one job anchoring you to that life just vanishes? At what point does the American dream start to feel more like a trap? Look, this isn't some hypothetical scenario. For thousands of people on an H1B visa, the moment they get a layoff notice, a clock starts ticking. A frantic 60-day countdown to either find a new path or pack up their entire life and leave. A luxurious prison. I mean, that quote from a Reddit user just says it all, doesn't it? You have the high salary, the great lifestyle, but it's all built on this incredibly shaky foundation. There's this constant gnawing anxiety that one single email, one layoff, can bring the whole thing crashing down. And that feeling of being trapped, it brings us to this first big idea, the golden handcuffs. See, the H-1B is supposed to be a bridge to a green card, to permanent residency. But for people from certain countries, especially India, that bridge is completely gridlocked. We're not talking about waiting a few years anymore. We are talking about decades. As one person put it, this whole situation turns the visa into a form of modern-day slavery. You're tied to one employer, chasing the hope of a green card that might honestly never, ever come. And when that one job you're tied to disappears, that's when the real crisis hits. That's when the 60-day clock starts. Officially, according to USCIS, laid-off H-1B workers can be granted a grace period of up to 60 days. But you gotta pay attention to that keyword, granted. It's discretionary. It's not a guarantee. It's a fragile, fragile safety net when the stakes are this high. Just 60 days. Think about that. 2 months. 2 months to find a brand new company willing to sponsor you in a tough job market, navigate all the complex visa paperwork, or plan a full-blown international move for you and your family. The pressure is just immense. So with that clock ticking down, your first moves are absolutely critical. The game plan has to be clear. Hunt for a new sponsor, immediately. At the same time, you have to be exploring a total change of your visa status. And if both of those doors slam shut, you have to prepare to leave, because overstaying your visa has serious long-term consequences. And underneath all of this, step 0 really, is get a good immigration attorney on the phone, fast. Okay, so this brings us to that first major choice. You decide to fight. You try to stay by navigating the ridiculously complex maze of U.S. visa options. All right, so let's say finding another H-1B sponsor just isn't happening. What are your other plays? Well, there's the L1 visa, but that's for transferring within a multinational company, and you need a year of experience with them abroad. Then you have the O1, the Extraordinary Ability Visa, but we're talking about, national level acclaim. A more common, though, drastic move is to go back to school on an F1 student visa. And, of course, if you have deep pockets, there's the EB-5 investor visa, which requires you to invest at least $800,000 and create 10 U.S. jobs. Now, within that student visa option, there's a popular strategy called Day 1 CPT. CPT stands for Curricular Practical Training, and it lets students work in a job that's related to what they're studying. A few universities have programs where you can get this work authorization from the very first day of class. It basically creates a lifeline, a bridge that lets you stay in the country legally and keep working while you figure out a more permanent solution. But even for those who manage to stay, the personal cost, it can be staggering. This one person, they paid U.S. taxes for nearly 15 years. 15 years! And still, every time they had to get their visa stamped, it was so uncertain that they couldn't even risk visiting their parents when they were grieving. It just hammers home the incredible emotional toll of a system that asks for everything from you, but gives you almost no stability in return. And it's exactly this kind of constant, grinding uncertainty that leads so many to a second major choice, the global exit strategy. For a lot of folks, the number one destination is Canada. And the reason why is simple. It comes down to a completely different philosophy. The U.S. system is all about your employer, it's based on lotteries, it's full of backlogs. Canada's system, on the other hand, is based on points. It gives skilled workers a direct, clear, predictable path to citizenship, often in just a few years. And you see it right here in this person's experience. The trade-off is crystal clear. Yeah, you might make less money, but what you gain is stability. You gain control over your own life, the freedom to quit a bad job without facing deportation, the ability to travel without fear. For so many, that peace of mind is worth more than any salary. And let's be clear, that trade-off is a big one. On average, a tech worker moving from the US to Canada is looking at a pay cut of around 40% when you convert it to US dollars. That is a massive financial hit, but it's a decision that thousands are making every year just to escape the American immigration nightmare. But get this, for some really smart people, Canada isn't just an exit ramp, it's a strategic power move. Check out this person's journey. Their H1B was about to expire, so they moved to Canada and got citizenship. A few years later, their multinational company transferred them back to the US as an executive on an L1 visa. And from that much stronger position, they got their US green card in less than a year. They literally had to leave America to finally come back on their own terms. And hey, it's not just Canada. Australia has similar skilled migration programs. Countries in Europe like Germany and the Netherlands have the Blue Card, which often comes with a much better work-life balance. And for some, the right move is to just go home, back to India, to be closer to family and jump into a tech scene that's absolutely exploding. But at the end of the day, every single one of these pathways, every choice, it all leads you right back to the same place, a fundamental, life-altering trade-off. It all boils down to this one question: a high-stakes, high-reward career or personal freedom and peace of mind? What's the right move? There's no simple answer. This is the core conflict, right here. The United States offers career opportunities and earning potential that are almost impossible to find anywhere else on Earth. But that opportunity comes at a brutally high cost. Years, maybe decades of profound instability where your entire life hangs by the single thread of your job. So in the end, what is the American dream really about? For this person who went back to India, it wasn't the bigger paycheck or the fancy title. It was peace. It was just finally feeling like they were in control of their own life again. And that really leaves you with one last question. What's the real price of freedom?